The Rivals was the first play written by Richard Brinsley Sheridan, first performed in 1775 at the Covent Garden Theatre in London. The play takes place over the course of 5 hours and is set in Bath, Somerset, England during the late 1700s. This comedy play can be described as a comedy of manners, genteel comedy or laughing comedy in Georgian comedy. Don't forget to subscribe. Sheridan starts his preface by saying that prefaces in published plays are usually seen as unnecessary if the play was successful. But since The Rivals got poor reviews when it was first performed, he feels the need to explain himself. He admits that the play had flaws, so he pulled it from the stage to make improvements. Since this was his first play, he lacked experience, but he credits Thomas Harris, the manager of Covent Garden Theatre, for helping him edit it. Originally, The Rivals was way too long, twice as long as a normal comedy. Thomas Harris, the manager of the Covent Garden Theatre, helped shorten it, but Sheridan thinks Harris went easy on him because he was a new playwright. He also justifies some of his unusual creative choices, saying he was trying hard to avoid plagiarism. Sheridan addresses rumors that some people deliberately try to ruin the play out of malice rather than genuine criticism. He mocks small-minded critics for their petty complaints. Finally, he denies that his character, Sir Lucius O'Trigger, was meant to insult any nationality. He ends by saying he trusts the audience at Covent Garden to be fair to new playwrights. The prologue starts with an exchange between an attorney and the sergeant-at-law. The attorney hands the sergeant a document to read in court, but the sergeant pretends he can't read the handwriting until the attorney bribes him. Suddenly, the writing becomes legible. The attorney exits, and the sergeant addresses the audience as if they were a jury in court. He asks them to be kind to the rivals and consider any mistakes as minor. He trusts the audience will be fair in their judgment. A woman enters and declares that the sergeant is no longer needed because he was too biased in favor of the playwright. She represents the muse of theater and introduces the two sides of drama. First, she describes the muse of comedy as a playful and witty young woman who shouldn't be expected to preach deep moral lessons. Then, she contrasts her with the muse of tragedy, who is much more serious. The tragic muse is so intense that she would even take away the comedy muse's fun and turn everything into a bloody tragedy. As a coachman named Thomas crosses the stage, Fag, a servant to Captain Jack Absolute, appears. They are old friends since they are both servants and are happy to see each other. Thomas explains that his master, Sir Anthony Absolute, rushed to Bath because he thought he was getting another gout attack. Fag says he now works for Ensign Beverley but then secretly tells Thomas that Ensign Beverley is actually Jack Absolute in disguise. Jack is pretending to be a poor soldier because the woman he loves, Lydia Languish, likes men who are struggling financially. If she knew he was actually rich, she wouldn't be interested. Lydia, however, is wealthy herself, so much so that, according to Fag, she could pay the national debt as easy as I could my washerwoman. Lydia has a strict aunt has never actually seen Jack. Thomas asks what Bath is like, and Fag explains that it's split into two social groups, the High Roomians and the Low Roomians. The town has a mineral spring, a promenade, billiards, and dancing, but since it's a health resort, everything runs on a strict schedule. Fag also mentions that he is friends with another servant, who works for a man named Falkland. Thomas reveals that Falkland is engaged to Julia Melville, a relative of the Absolutes. Fag teases Thomas for wearing a wig, and Thomas insists he'll never stop, even if doctors and lawyers do. As Thomas rants about wigs, Fag suddenly warns him that Jack Absolute and Lydia's maid, Lucy, are approaching. Thomas notices Jack giving Lucy money, which seems suspicious, and Fag tells him to meet him at 8 for a little party. Lydia is in her dressing room when Lucy returns from town. Lucy struggled to find Lydia's favorite romantic novels. One was borrowed by Lady Slattern Lounger but was too dirty and worn out. She gives Lydia the books she could find, along with her smelling bottle. When Lucy mentions seeing Ensign Beverley, Lydia gets excited, but their conversation is interrupted by Julia Melville's arrival. Lydia tells Julia that Mrs. Malaprop, her guardian, has forbidden her from seeing Beverley and has confined her to the house. She also reveals that Mrs. Malaprop has fallen for an Irish baronet and even uses a fake romantic named Delia with him, though this hasn't made her any more understanding of Lydia's romance. Lydia then admits she had a fight with Beverley because she thought couples should argue sometimes, so she faked a cheating scandal. Julia assures her that Beverley will forgive her but points out that he isn't wealthy. Lydia doesn't mind. She'll lose most of her fortune if she marries without her aunt's consent before she turns 21, and she's determined to do just that. She even says she couldn't love a man who would wait for her to inherit her money. Julia calls this foolish, but Lydia argues that Julia's own relationship is flawed, since Falkland keeps delaying their marriage. Julia defends him, saying he may not be the most romantic, but his love is ardent and sincere. Lydia then asks whether Julia would still love Falkland if he hadn't saved her from drowning. Lucy suddenly enters with news: Sir Anthony Absolute and Mrs. Malaprop have arrived. Julia quickly leaves to avoid running into Sir Anthony, while Lydia tells Lucy to hide all her romance novels. Mrs. Malaprop enters, complaining about Lydia's obsession with Beverly and insisting that young women shouldn't have opinions about love. She even says it's best to start marriage with a bit of dislike. After all, she hated her late husband at first but still turned out to be a good wife. When Lydia exits, Sir Anthony and Mrs. Malaprop discuss how dangerous reading is for young women. Sir Anthony declares that libraries are a circulating library in a town is as an evergreen tree of diabolical knowledge, while Mrs. Malaprop suggests sending girls to boarding school to learn trickery instead of actual education. Sir Anthony then reveals that Lydia must marry his son, Jack Absolute. Mrs. Malaprop agrees to help, despite never having met Jack. Sir Anthony, a strict and controlling father, is sure Jack will obey. If Lydia refuses, he suggests locking her up or even starving her for a few days to force her compliance. After Sir Anthony leaves, Mrs. Malaprop admits she's eager to get Lydia off her hands, especially since Lydia has discovered her secret interest in Sir Lucius O'Trigger. She reminds Lucy not to tell anyone about it. Once alone, Lucy laughs about how everyone is paying her to do their dirty work. Mrs. Malaprop pays her to spy on Lydia, Lydia pays her to help her run away, Bob Acres pays her to deliver love letters which she never actually delivers. And Lucius O'Trigger thinks she's sending romantic letters to Lydia, when in reality, they're going straight to Mrs. Malaprop. Jack's servant, Fag, tells him that he informed Sir Anthony that Jack is in Bath but didn't explain why. He claims he kept it secret from the other servants, though he actually let some details slip. Fag also lied to Sir Anthony, saying Jack is in town to recruit soldiers. Jack worries the lie was too exaggerated. Jack then meets his friend Falkland, who asks about Lydia. Jack hasn't seen her since their argument but expects a reconciliation. When Falkland suggests eloping, Jack refuses. He doesn't want to lose 2/3 of her fortune. Falkland advises him to be honest and ask for Sir Anthony's approval, but Jack insists he must first test Lydia's love by posing as a poor man. Jack then teases Falkland about his constant insecurities over Julia. When Jack reveals that Julia is in Bath, Falkland gets anxious. Bob Acres arrives, confirming that Julia is well and lively. Falkland, instead of being reassured, takes offense. He finds it suspicious that she is so happy without him. When Acres describes Julia singing and dancing, Falkland becomes even more upset, interpreting her joy as a betrayal. He storms out in frustration. After Falkland leaves, Jack and Acres joke about Acres' past horrible fashion sense. Acres also declares his desire to duel Ensign Beverly, not realizing that Jack and Beverly are the same person. Suddenly, Fag warns Jack that his father has arrived. Sir Anthony immediately orders Jack to marry someone he has chosen, without revealing that it's Lydia. Assuming his father is forcing him into a marriage with another woman, Jack refuses, angering Sir Anthony. He threatens to strip Jack of his military commission if he doesn't agree within 6.5 hours. After Sir Anthony storms out, Jack vents his frustration at Fag, who, feeling mistreated, takes it out on an errand boy. Lucy meets Sir Lucius and delivers a letter from Delia. The letter is filled with grand, confusing phrases about love. Sir Lucius is puzzled by the wording, but Lucy assures him that Delia is very experienced, though when he questions how a 17-year-old could have so much experience, she quickly clarifies that she just meant she reads a lot. Sir Lucius doesn't mind the odd language and admits he would elope with Delia if he weren't financially dependent on her aunt's approval. He gives Lucy money and kisses her, while she flirts back, still pretending to be naive. After Sir Lucius leaves, Fag appears and warns Lucy to stop delivering letters for him. He threatens to tell his master, Ensign Beverly, that Sir Lucius is a rival. Lucy surprises him by revealing that the letters are actually from Mrs. Malaprop, not Lydia. She then delivers an even bigger shock. There's another rival for Lydia's love, Captain Absolute. Fag, knowing that Absolute and Beverly are the same person, finds this hilarious, but he rushes off to inform Jack. Lucy, unaware of the truth, believes Absolute is a serious competitor and advises Fag to reassure Beverly that Lydia still loves him. Jack realizes that the girl his father wants him to marry is Lydia, the same girl he was planning to elope with. When Sir Anthony enters, Jack pretends to change his mind and agrees to the arranged marriage. Excited, Anthony praises Lydia's beauty and youth, but Jack acts indifferent, which frustrates his father. Angry at Jack's lack of enthusiasm, Anthony insists that he meet Lydia immediately. Falkland reminisces about when he and Julia first fell in love. When Julia arrives, she confronts him about his detached and doubtful attitude toward her. He accuses her of not truly loving him, despite her reassurances. Hurt, she runs off in tears. Seeing how upset she is, Falkland regrets his behavior and vows to make it up to her next time. Mrs. Malaprop discusses Jack's upcoming marriage to Lydia. Jack flatters her, but then she reveals that Lydia has been exchanging letters with another man, Ensign Beverly. Jack realizes one of his letters has fallen into the wrong hands. He reads it aloud, pretending to be outraged when it insults Mrs. Malaprop. Jack convinces her to let Lydia continue writing to Beverly and even plan an elopement, so they can later stop it. Malaprop agrees. Jack then asks to speak with Lydia, tricking Malaprop into telling Lydia that Beverly is waiting for her. Lydia is thrilled when she sees Beverly. He pretends he tricked Mrs. Malaprop to meet her. She asks if he is willing to marry her and give up her inheritance, and when he says yes, she excitedly imagines a life of love and poverty with him. Mrs. Malaprop overhears Lydia saying, "Beverly is mine," and is shocked that Lydia would insult Captain Absolute in front of him, not realizing that Jack and Beverly are the same person. Akers tells his servant David about his recent fashion makeover. He likes dressing fancy but still enjoys country dancing. They are interrupted by Sir Lucius O'Trigger, who asks why Akers is in Bath. Akers reveals he is in love with a woman and has a rival, Ensign Beverly. Sir Lucius convinces Akers to challenge Beverly to a duel, even though Beverly hasn't actually wronged him. Fired up, Akers writes a challenge letter, summoning Beverly to a duel at Kingsmead Fields. Sir Lucius also mentions he has his own rival to fight. David tries to talk Akers out of the duel, arguing that avoiding fights is the best way to maintain honor. But Akers insists that a gentleman must defend his honor, no matter the risk. A servant announces the arrival of Jack Absolute. Akers hands Jack the challenge letter for Ensign Beverly, not knowing Jack is Beverly. Jack plays along and agrees to deliver it. Before he can leave, Jack's father, Sir Anthony, arrives, demanding to see him. As Jack exits, Akers asks him to tell Beverly that he is a determined dog. Lydia and Mrs. Malaprop discuss Jack Absolute and Beverly. Lydia insists she loves Beverly, while Malaprop praises Jack. When Jack and his father, Anthony, arrive, Lydia refuses to even look at Jack. Jack, realizing this, speaks to her in a disguised voice but eventually whispers to her in his real voice. When she finally turns around, she recognizes him as Beverly, confusing Anthony and Malaprop. Jack confesses that he pretended to be Beverly to win Lydia's love. Lydia is disappointed, realizing there will be no romantic elopement. Anthony is furious at Jack's deception, while Malaprop is offended that Jack wrote insulting things about her. However, Anthony convinces Malaprop to forgive them, and they both leave the room happily. Jack then notices that Lydia is upset, not because of the trick, but because she unknowingly fell in love with the wealthy captain her family wanted her to marry. Feeling betrayed, she accuses Jack of manipulating her romantic fantasies and storms out in tears, refusing to marry him. Sir Lucius arrives, waiting for Beverly, who he believes is his duel opponent. Jack, heartbroken over Lydia's rejection, enters, joking that he could easily kill himself or someone else. He accidentally runs into Lucius, who challenges him to a duel. They agree to fight at 6 p.m., the same time Lucius is set to fight Beverly. After Lucius leaves, Falkland arrives, still troubled by his argument with Julia. Jack tells him about Lydia's rejection and the duel. Jack asks Falkland to be his second, but Falkland, still upset over Julia, refuses. A servant delivers a letter from Julia, but Falkland is too afraid to read it. Jack opens it and sees Julia wants to talk and signs it yours ever and truly. Still, Falkland doubts her love, thinking she is forgiving him too quickly. Jack scolds him and leaves. Alone, Falkland decides to use the duel to test Julia's love for him. Julia reads a letter from Falkland about a dreadful accident. When Falkland arrives, he claims he was forced into a fight and must flee the country. Julia immediately offers to go with him, entrusting him with her future. Falkland keeps making excuses for why she shouldn't, but Julia remains devoted. Finally, Falkland reveals it was all a test, he was never actually in danger. Julia, while relieved, is also furious at his distrust. She tells him his constant doubts and manipulations are cruel and declares she will never be his. She leaves, leaving Falkland heartbroken. Lydia enters with her maid, looking for Julia. When Julia returns, Lydia notices she has been crying, but Julia won't say why. Lydia vents about how Jack deceived her, but Julia already knows, Falkland told her. Lydia swears never to forgive Jack, but Julia insists that Jack truly loves her. They are suddenly interrupted by Malaprop, Fag, and David, who bring shocking news. A duel is about to take place between Jack, Falkland, Akers, and Lucius. Malaprop panics upon hearing Lucius is involved. The three women decide they must rush to the duel site and stop it. Jack, armed with a sword, prepares for the duel when his father, Anthony, stops him, asking where he's going. Jack lies, saying he's going to beg Lydia for forgiveness. Anthony notices the sword, and Jack quickly makes up another lie, that it's just a dramatic prop to impress Lydia. Anthony believes him and lets him go. After Jack leaves, David arrives and tells Anthony the truth. Jack is heading to a duel. Alarmed, Anthony demands David take him to the fight. Lucius and Akers arrive, preparing to duel, but argue over how far apart they should stand. Jack and Falkland show up, and Jack reveals that he was pretending to be Beverly all along. Akers, realizing Jack is his friend, no longer wants to fight, but Lucius still insists. Before the duel can begin, Anthony, Malaprop, Lydia, Julia, and David all rush in to stop it. Anthony demands to know why Lucius challenged Jack. Lucius claims Jack insulted his honor, then turns to Lydia, calling her Delia, the name in his love letters. Lydia, confused, announces that she wants to marry Jack, making Jack ecstatic. Jack tries to clear up the misunderstanding, and Akers gives up on Lydia. Lucius pulls out the letters he believes are from Lydia, but she denies ever writing them. When she leaves with Jack, Malaprop reveals that she is actually Delia. Anthony jokingly suggests Lucius should marry her, but he refuses. Everyone exits except Julia and Falkland. Julia forgives Falkland for his manipulations, and they reconcile. Anthony gives them his blessing. The other characters return, and Julia delivers the final lines about true love needing sincerity and virtue rather than just passion. The actress playing Julia steps forward to deliver the epilogue. Adopting the identity of the muse of theater, she addresses the audience in rhyming couplets that the playwright wanted a moral to the story. She believes the message is clear: men's happiness depends on women. Whether a man is rich or poor, a soldier or a politician, a widower or a bachelor, he is happiest when he has a wise, level-headed woman by his side, not just a beautiful one. Let's thematically analyze Richard Sheridan's The Rivals. Back in the late 18th century, British noblemen were obsessed with honor. If someone insulted them or someone they cared about, they often settled the matter by fighting a duel. Captain Absolute, a proper gentleman, is shocked when Sir Lucius O'Trigger challenges him to a duel for no clear reason. He tries to talk it out, but when that fails, he accepts the challenge to protect his honor. On the other hand, Sir Lucius wants to duel. He's always pushing people to fight, even trying to get Falkland to challenge Akers to a duel. Squire Akers, a country gentleman, doesn't have the same military training or social polish as Captain Absolute. He also lacks courage, but he tries to act tough to fit in with the fashionable crowd in Bath. Sir Lucius convinces him to challenge Beverly to a duel over nothing. Lucius convinces Akers by saying, "What the devil signifies right when your honor is concerned? Do you think Achilles, or my little Alexander the Great, ever inquired where the right lay? No, by my soul." They drew their broadswords. When Akers realizes Beverly isn't real, he's relieved. He never wanted to fight in the first place. Sir Lucius calls him a coward, and Akers doesn't even try to defend himself. In this society, failing to be brave is unacceptable, so Akers comes across as both cowardly and foolish. The Rivals highlights how language and especially women learning to read are treated in society. Lydia Languish is obsessed with sentimental novels and hides them when her elders, Sir Anthony and Mrs. Malaprop, arrive. They both strongly disapprove of reading, with Mrs. Malaprop calling circulating libraries foul places and Sir Anthony dramatically calling them an evergreen tree of diabolical knowledge. Mrs. Malaprop tries to sound sophisticated by using fancy words but ends up embarrassing herself. Mrs. Malaprop constantly misuses words, leading to hilarious misunderstandings. Her mistakes were so memorable that the term malapropism, meaning the accidental use of the wrong but similar-sounding word, was named after her. She believes using big words makes her seem intelligent, but in reality, her errors reveal her ignorance. Bob Akers is just as ridiculous as he sprinkles his speech with weird, over-the-top swearing, thinking it makes him sound trendy. But Captain Absolute finds his way of speaking bizarre, making it clear that Akers is out of touch rather than fashionable. Neither Akers nor Mrs. Malaprop realizes when Captain Absolute is making fun of them because they are too focused on showing off their so-called sophistication. In the play, the female characters don't have much control over their own lives. Mrs. Malaprop is often mocked for being older. Mrs. Malaprop, Lydia's guardian, is a caricature of the strict 18th century British social expectations placed on young women. She constantly criticizes Lydia's behavior, insisting it's not proper, even when her objections are exaggerated and ridiculous. Julia represents the ideal woman of the time, patient, loving, and demure. She has to deal with Falkland's jealousy and insecurities. Even though Falkland constantly doubts her, Julia remains loyal and tries to reassure him. At the time, there was a big argument over whether sentimental novels were bad influences for young women. Lydia is caught up in these romantic stories and wants to live like a heroine in a novel, sacrificing wealth and defying authority for love. She dreams of marrying a poor man, giving up her inheritance, and going against her aunt's wishes. Sir Anthony blames her reading habits for her stubbornness, even claiming that women shouldn't be allowed to read at all. However, Lydia's fantasy falls apart when she realizes that the man she loves, the penniless Ensign Beverly, is actually Captain Absolute, a wealthy and suitable match that her guardians would approve of. Older characters like Sir Anthony Absolute and Mrs. Malaprop have a traditional view of marriage. It's all about wealth and social status. Sir Anthony offers his son, Jack, a large inheritance, but only if he agrees to marry the woman his father chooses. What he doesn't realize is that Jack is already in love with the same woman, Lydia Languish. Sir Anthony even compares marriage to a business deal, bluntly telling Jack that, if you have the estate, you must take it with the livestock on it. Similarly, Mrs. Malaprop warns Lydia that if she keeps pursuing Ensign Beverly, she will lose most of her inheritance. For these older characters, love isn't a romantic or emotional connection, it's a practical transaction. Meanwhile, Falkland, who is supposed to be in love with Julia Melville, is an insecure mess. He's constantly worried that she doesn't love him enough. His insecurity leads him to repeatedly test Julia's loyalty, even making up a fake story about leaving the country just to see how she reacts. When she realizes she's being tested again, she leaves in tears. Lydia, on the other hand, is obsessed with the idea that true love must involve overcoming social differences. She loves reading romantic novels full of poor but passionate lovers and wants to recreate that in real life. She dreams of eloping with Ensign Beverly, believing that true love means staying together even in poverty. To play along with her fantasy, Jack Absolute pretends to be poor while courting her. She even goes so far as to write a fake letter to herself, claiming that Beverly is seeing another woman, just to create more drama. Her fantasy comes crashing down in Act 4 when she finds out that the penniless Beverly is actually the wealthy Jack Absolute. Disappointed, she sulks, saying, "So, there will be no elopement after all." But in the end, she gets over it, and the play ends with her happily reconciling with Jack. Hope you share and subscribe.